Greetings, students. Welcome to Mr. Little's History Bites, and today we're going to be taking a look at Chapter 13, Part 3, The Impact of Dar al-Islam, aka the impact of the Islamic world. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right on in. By the end of this history bite, you should be able to answer these three essential questions. 1. How did the creation of Dar al-Islam impact the environment of Afro-Eurasia, the environments of Afro-Eurasia? Number 2, how did the creation of Dar al-Islam spark the Islamic Golden Age? And 3, how did early Islamic scholars react to the cultures they encountered as Dar al-Islam spread further and further? So let's address these three questions in this history bite. So number 1, what is Dar al-Islam? Let's really quick get some terminology down. Okay, Dar al-Islam in Arabic translates to the realm of peace. And what it basically means is it's Muslim majority areas in the world, the Caliphate, but also other areas that became majority Muslim by the 1400s. So this includes West Africa, parts of East Africa, South and Southeast Asia, right? This translates to the realm of peace, right? The Islamic world is the realm of peace. Now, your textbook actually refers to it also something called a hemispheric trading zone. And what this means is it points out that the Islamic world, Dar al-Islam, united a number of previously disunited trading zones and cultural zones, right, to create this gigantic hemispheric zone. And how Dar al-Islam becomes sort of a region all its own, both a political and economic as well as a cultural region. Of course, it's important to remember that in the beginning and up to the 1400s, it was not a purely Islamic realm. This did not mean that everybody inside of here was a Muslim and everybody outside of here was not a Muslim. In the early days of the expansion of Dar al-Islam, the Caliphate, perhaps up to 60% of the population was not Muslim in the beginning, contained numerous languages and cultures. And while Arabic and Persian were important, they were not the majority of the languages spoken in the Caliphate, as well as Dar al-Islam. Let's talk about the spread of ideas. One of the things that Dar al-Islam did was that it brought into interaction several previously divided philosophical zones, such as philosophy from the Greek world via the Byzantine Empire, math and medicine from South Asia via the conquest of northern South Asia by the Caliphate, as well as Persian political thought that was brought to the attention of the caliphs via their conquest of Persia. Now, all of these ideas would have been a lot harder to get across if they had not all been translated. And thankfully, the caliphs saw fit to translate many of these ideas and set up something called a House of Wisdom around 900 CE that translated the works from ancient Greece, ancient India, ancient Persia, and other parts of the world into Arabic and then spread them all over the Islamic world. And this kicks off, is usually considered the beginning of the Islamic Golden Age, in which a number of ideas were spread around in topics such as mathematics, astronomy, physics, and lots of other fields, in part because so many new ideas were now widely available in a language that a number of people spoke, mostly Arabic, but also some in Persian. All these ideas were suddenly freely available. And the discussions and the debates around these ideas meant that there was an explosion of inventions as well as mathematical theories. And so we're going to talk about a few of those really quick. So for example, Ibn Sina, in the West known as Avicenna, who wrote perhaps the first modern medical tract referred to as the Canon of Medicine, was influenced by Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, and his concept of logic. Now, Ibn Sina applied this to practice of medicine and created the first modern medical book. This is the Canon of Medicine. A mathematician from modern day Uzbekistan called Al-Khwarizmi was influenced by these counting system from northern South Asia that he referred to as Hindi numerals, that he incorporated into his mathematical equations that popularized throughout the Islamic world. We call these Arabic numerals, and you might be familiar with them. They are the 0 through 9 counting system, right? Developed in South Asia, but then spread throughout the Islamic world and eventually popularized in the West. That is Europe. The Testament of Ardashir was a Persian political text that influenced much of the structure of the early caliphate, basically laying out the principles by which a good person governs their empire. And so all of these ideas, which came from different parts of the world, were all brought together in this newly created cultural zone called Dar al-Islam. So the geographic size of Dar al-Islam also meant that it incorporated numerous biological species and plant life. And the increase in trade meant that crops had a higher chance of being adopted or spread to another region. And this is exactly what happened. And some of these crops are major elements in our diets, even to this day. For example, sugar, citrus, and rice, even in the United States, are still very common. And at the time, these were sort of segregated, if you will, within their own little regions of the world, right? But thanks to the diffusion of Dar al-Islam and the regular trade that was incorporated into this new hemispheric trading zone, these crops and some of their production technologies were spread throughout the world, such as cotton, rice, spice cultivation. And so this is one of the consequences of Dar al-Islam, is the diffusion of crops, not just the diffusion of culture. This also includes a diffusion of technology. And we're going to talk about two here that I think are particularly important. One of which is called the Astrolabe, which is a navigational tool used to determine location, right? It won't tell you what direction you're going. It's not a compass, but it will tell you your location. Now, this was in development in Roman Egypt. And then once Roman Egypt was conquered by the Muslims, it was improved upon and then used by Muslim merchants in their Indian Ocean trade, where it would eventually be transferred to Indian merchants and then Chinese merchants, and then eventually to European merchants and explorers. Christopher Columbus would famously use one during his voyage to the Americas. Another agricultural technology is something called the Noria wheel, which is a wheel powered by an animal or sometimes just powered by water that uses the force of falling water or animal power to collect and distribute water from a river. And this makes it very easy to farm in places that previously might have been slightly more difficult to farm, drier, more arid regions. And so this technology spread from the Middle East into Islamic Spain. That's part of Spain to this day, as well as in Central Asia, where they would be set up near large rivers to help the collection of water proceed more smoothly. So, hopefully you can answer those essential questions, but that was just a small look. This topic is very deep and very extensive, and this was just a very small look at it, but I hope you can answer those essential questions. Thank you so much for joining me for this History Bite, and I'll see you next time.